Welcome, everybody. Good afternoon. And my name is Massimo Banzi. I'm the co-founder of Arduino. I have a few things to tell you about what's going on in the Arduino world. Well, I guess the biggest news of the last few weeks is that as of July 28, the original founders of Arduino are back in charge of the company. So we basically, it's us. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I am also, some people are not excited about this. So some people in the audience that are like, no. Okay, well, we cannot all be, we can always agree, but so I'm very happy that this is happening. Essentially, there's just one Arduino company. It's owned by the founder and by somebody that I want to introduce you quickly. So we have new roles inside the company. So we have a new CEO, Fabio Violante, who is here. Can you stand up and say hi? So me and Fabio know each other for what, 17 years? So he's been very, very important in the last couple of years to help first negotiate a resolution to all the sort of disagreements and also sort of help us reorganize as a company. And now he's the new CEO because he's good at that. He's launched several successful companies. My ability as a CEO is up to a lemonade stand. After the lemonade stand, I have to hand over to somebody who knows how to do it. So I'm the CTO, for lack of a better term, and my friend David is also CEO, but more CTO for the education part of Arduino, and Tom, who is in the audience over there, and David, who is somewhere in California, preparing to get married or something, is are advising us. So so this is a big change. This is going to simplify a lot things because it's going to be one strategy, one set of ideas, one very well-defined group of people who go out and say, I am Arduino. It's going to simplify a lot of things for us, and I think for the community, I believe, and for the people who clapped before. And so also, Arduino.org doesn't exist anymore. We took it off. So if you go to their website, you go to ardunio.cc, which is the official website since the first day that we launched the project. And so if you wanna, since a lot of people now are still confused where they should email, so it's ardunio.cc, and the companies that were kind of involved, Dog Hunters, they're no longer sort of associated with Arduino, so everything goes through the ardunio.cc website. So one of the things that I think it's important, because there have been a lot of debates in the last few months, is that the first thing we want to do is to renew our commitment to open source. There have been some issues with some of the products that were released with Arduino written on it, where they had not all of the files were available, and it wasn't something I could control. And it caused me a lot of grief, because obviously a bunch of people emailed me and said, oh, you need to fix this. I said, yeah, if I could fix it, I would be very happy to fix it, but I can't really fix it. So, we tried a number of times to, we'll try to get the files for those products. I'm not 100% confident that we will be able to do that, but, from now on, it's going to be only open source. So there's not going to be that particular debate anymore. So it's something that we started, probably the first successful open hardware project, and we want to sort of continue to work on that. And so we are trying to figure out ways how to engage better with the community. We have this Arduino Day that we organize every year. And in the last April, we had about 500 different events around the world. So we realized there are a bunch of user groups that are happening all over the place. And we want to enable them to be visible, to be recognized as groups of Arduino user. So we prepared this website, which is going live, I think officially on Monday. But if you go to the Arduino booth, you can actually sign up our user group to the website, and you will be placed on a map, and you will be recognized as a quote-unquote official Arduino user group. And then the idea is that to work with these user groups in the future to have a better engagement between the people who are working on Arduino in the communities around the world and us, and have a better sort of more productive sort of exchange. And but also sometimes people ask us, so where do I find a group of Arduino user in my area? And so this website is going to basically solve just that. And so look for on the Arduino website, there will be an announcement on Monday, but if you go to the booth today, you can already sort of start signing up for it. And so we're also trying to figure out how to change the way we do the development, so the way we engage with the developer community. So there's a subset of the community of people who actually develop code for Arduino that add things to the Arduino sort of software side mostly. And so we want to improve the way we work with this group of people. So the idea is to start to work with the community to define public roadmaps of where we think we want to take Arduino and the stuff they want to do together, so that it's, it is a shared thing with all the people in the developer community. And also I want to have like clear milestones for when we release new versions of the IDE, of the different cores of Arduino. And so I want to start on October 10 having a monthly hangout with the developer community. So this will be mostly for the people that are on the Arduino developer mailing list. And this is a way for us to start to really talk to people more in real time than just through the mailing list. We realize that the mailing list is a very limited platform. So we're trying to look for better ways to engage with the developers, because we have a lot of things that we want to do, but we have to get the community better organized. At the moment, it's kind of, inefficient and kind of chaotic, and we want to sort of channel the energies a little bit better. So to touch on another topic, there was a discussion a few months ago about this Arduino Foundation. A lot of things were said that not by us about the foundation. They were kind of random. There were also random press releases that came out. So we want to take a moment to relax just a second, and basically we don't want to design something that doesn't work. So we're going to take a little bit of time and try to figure out how to do it properly. So we're going to start two processes. One process is to get feedback from the community on what they would like to see if there was an Arduino Foundation, how would that work. But also we would like to collect a group of stakeholders and organize some kind of get-together at the beginning of February, including also some people who have experience setting up open source foundations, and sort of get them together. The indication is early February. We will provide some more details in the next few weeks. But the idea is to get together some stakeholders and try to figure out, so members of the open source community, some of the people we work with, experts in foundations, get them together, discuss what's the best way to do it, incorporate the feedback from the community, and then make a proposal. It doesn't make a lot of sense to just randomly create something and then figure out it doesn't work. No? So we can take a bit of time and get it done properly. So in a way, Arduino is evolving. No? So the maker and prototyping and education and kits are the two sort of area of what we're doing, the top and the bottom bubbles, that are the ones that sort of are classic stuff that we do. There's more and more stuff going on right now in the Internet of Things sort of area, where we have more and more people using some of the products that we do for more kind of, not just for prototyping, but for actually building solutions and doing things. And on the other side, there's, Arduino is ending up in also some more, what you would describe in more professional type products. So there's always this interesting expansion of Arduino as a company and as a community into different areas. And so we are trying to figure out ways how to simplify and make it better, how to do a better job. So in terms of hardware, the work that I'm doing is concentrated on the classic format, but one of the things that I'm really developing is a system of boards where you have carrier boards, different shields. These are like, they're basically something that's like 1.5 inch by 1 inch, more or less, like something like that. I don't know. I'm really bad at non-metric system. It's like 25 by 75 millimeters to use a logical way of expressing measurement units. I know that the audience is full of people who are fans of the metric system, and you know, it's just the way it should be. But anyway, so the idea is to have a modular system of smaller devices with the same pinout and same sort of mechanical features, where we want to provide different options for connectivity and computing power and power management so that people can design some product and then swap this thing. And we are encouraging people to copy this layout and use it. And actually, it's slowly happening, and this is making me happy that people are starting to adopt this format. I just saw yesterday that a German company just designed a board like this with an FPGA on it. So the format is slowly catching on. And it's important because if you imagine on the classic Arduino shape, we have probably more than 400 shields that are available in different ways from the market. But since all the small-sized Arduinos were all different for a number of reasons that I'm not going to go through right now, but essentially there was like this random selection of formats. It was very difficult to have one standard to use for shields, expansion boards, and all of that. So we are concentrating on this format now. We have a Wi-Fi board. We have a board without connectivity. We have a board with Sigfox that we launched. They are all open source. You can download the files and all that for real. And but we are launching 2 new boards today. One is it's powered by the LoRa wireless protocol. I don't know if you heard of LoRa, but it's used a lot in when you have essentially as a low power wireless protocol for IoT projects where you have a gateway, a bunch of nodes in the field. And so it's a good complement to the Sigfox part, which is actually very successful. So if you're doing like a low power sensor network, Sigfox, LoRa are really good. There are other situations where you just want connectivity anywhere in the world. And we also launching this Maker 1400 powered by 3G GSM. And again, same exact form factor, but it's running on 3G GSM. We built this in partnership with uBlocks, and so they have a very good 3G module. So this thing basically runs almost everywhere in the world where there is a 3G connection. And again, you just get a SIM card, you place it in the device, you turn it on, and you get connectivity. And I think it's also a very nice product. It also supports some voice communication as well. So there's a lot of different projects that can be built with this. But again, it's about reusing the same format so that we can produce a ton of different modules, shields, adapters, carrier boards. And so as this format catches on, we hope that a bunch of people will start making products with the same format so that we don't, or people will start making, very cheap carrier boards or very cheap adapters for this. No? So it's important to create a format and then, work with the community to make this some kind of an official standard that kind of simplifies everybody's life and include, if you design a shield and you're trying to sell it from your website or something, if it's based on a format that a bunch of people uses, you have more chances to sell your own product. So that's also the reason why we try to standardize a bit, to give the chance to people who are building their own products to have enough installed base to be able to sell that kind of accessory. So in terms of the IDE, so in May we started to discuss these 6 proposals to kind of reorganize better the Arduino sort of code and IDE, and there was a very healthy debate on the mailing list, and there was some very interesting discussion in the developer community on when we said we should have some kind of a scheduler to do some kind of multitasking. The discussion became very quickly very technical, and so it was a bit intense to go through all the messages, but there's a lot of energy in the community that should be in a way released and put to use in this kind of idea. So we're going to continue working on this. We are releasing some more bits of code that are part of the IDE. So we are releasing in the next couple of weeks. It should be open the repository. This thing called Arduino command line interface is just a single command line binary that does basically almost everything the IDE does. So you can create a new project, compile the project, upload the project to a board, install libraries, install cores, and you will also be able, for example, to synchronize the sketches you have on the code you have on your computer with the online IDE. The idea is to, and I'll show you later, is to reduce the complexity and allow people to use whatever IDE they want. So to reduce the dependency on the big, blob that the Java IDE is right now. So for example, another thing that we've done, we took the AVR support for Arduino, which is the classic code that we use for the Arduino Unos and stuff, and we kind of separate it out in a separate repository. And I understand this is kind of technical and it might apply only to a few people in the audience, but essentially I just want to say it's a bunch of attempts at making the whole process more open, to make it easier for people to reuse, modify, contribute. So the idea here is really to allow people to contribute to that particular piece of software without having to download the whole source code for the IDE. So the idea is the whole thing should no longer be a monolith, that if you want to do something, you have to kind of deal with this big blob of code. The classic downloadable IDE becomes just a small shell that's basically just an editor, and every other function is moved into a different tool that you can reuse in a ton of different ways. So we have this Arduino Builder we launched like 2 years ago. We have the Arduino preprocessor that we launched in May. Now we have this Arduino command line. So the idea is that with this, for example, you can even automatically compile code, install it on boards completely in an unattended fashion. So if you need to automate testing, automate a bunch of things, you can do it very simply. And so look for the announcement on the blog. Last few things we're doing. So we're working to increase the functionality that create.arduino.cc has, which is our online IDE, but it has a bunch of other features that we are working on. So one feature we worked on right now is that currently the projects on Arduino Create are open source by default. So if you know the address of somebody's project, you open it and you can see the code and you can import it in your own environment. The problem is that people have the tendency to store passwords, API keys, token, and other secret information in the code that you don't want to share with other people. And this is a problem on GitHub. Like there's a bunch of people going on GitHub and scanning for API keys and just hacking into other people's system. So we figured a simple way to do this. So if you have something that you want to keep sort of private, you can prefix the name with secret underscore. Like this, for example, this is the username and password for the Wi-Fi, so you have secret something. The Arduino Create will automatically create this page for you where you can fill in the information, but this thing is only visible to you. So if somebody comes in and looks at your code, these values will be blanked out. They won't see them. You can export the code to use on your classic Arduino desktop IDE, and again, all the secrets will be stripped out of the code when they get exported. So in this way, it's easier to build IoT project, and we can increase the amount of sharing that people do because we simplify sharing, so you don't have to remember, oh, I left the API key. No, somebody is deleting my servers right now or something, which is something that happened to people that left the AWS key in the code and they regretted it. So there's more work that we're doing now for over-the-air updates for code, and we're trying to incorporate support for a bunch of different platforms. So there's more features in that area coming because we do projects with people that use Arduino in much more professional context. So we are adding features because we're working with these people, and we're then going to be releasing this feature out as they become available. Last thing I want to touch is that we created a Chromebook app for Create because there are countries like the US where basically half of the schools, but in schools basically half of the computers are Chromebooks, which is really good for a number of things. But if you try to plug a USB cable, it's sort of you don't really use the USB ports on those products. So we created this Chromebook app that allows people to use Arduino on the Chromebook. At the moment, it's essentially a beta, and it costs something like 99 cents to get this app. But we're studying better pricing options because there are some schools that say, okay, we have 300 students. How's that going to work? So we have to figure out how to accommodate people who have like a lot of students and that. And the last thing I wanted to touch quickly is that we've been working a lot on these education programs that we've done a lot in Spain, in Sweden. We are doing them in Italy now. So we do a lot of these programs for high schools where not only we make available the Arduinos or the sensors or the laser cut parts or whatever, but we're also working quite a lot on training the teachers because unfortunately everywhere in the world, countries are not exactly investing a ton of money on teachers, which personally I think it's really bad that countries are not investing money in teachers, but not always you have control on what happens in your country. So what happens, but we can help by producing by creating some content that helps teachers understand how to teach these kind of subjects, using sort of the Arduino way of teaching, which is much more based on learning by doing, project-based learning, teamwork, all of the things that you don't often do in school. So this is for kids between 13 and it's available in English and Spanish. So you can use it in it's available to a lot of communities. It's also available in Swedish and a couple of other languages that are not so used in the US. But in English and Spanish, it's available. So you should check it out. There's going to be a whole new section on the Arduino website about education, showing resources for teachers on how to teach and content and this kind of topics. So this was just a quick sort of snapshot of what we are working on as a company and the way we are trying also as a community to open up and involve more people. And obviously, I wanted to also, communicate to this part of the community that we are sort of back in charge. So a number of things will be simpler to do because we can just decide to do it and do it. And, there will be a lot less confusing messages because there's only going to be one sort of one point of view. We debate internally, but then one point of view becomes, public. And I think that's pretty important. So, well, thank you very much for using Arduino, and thank you for coming. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Good. Well, I'm leaving room for the next speaker because we're running a few minutes later.
Thank you very much, Massimo. Would you guys be able to...